Hey guys, welcome back to my channel once again. Ken Roy here. Now in today's video I'm going to be doing something slightly different in the fact that I'll be answering a question that was posed by a commenter in my previous video last week. So if you haven't seen that video, go and check it out. I basically talk about why it's a good idea to buy a property now rather than waiting. And in that video it was all about showing you that, if you have the money, if you have all that is necessary in order for you to purchase a property, now is a good time to do so, especially if you're younger. I just ran through some of the pros in actually buying a property now versus keeping the money in your account and just waiting and waiting and waiting. Of course, when buying properties, there always are risks, so I'm not even going to pretend like there aren't any risks. We all know that, and I did say that before you do something such as buy a property. This is a big deal, guys. You have to make sure you speak to a financial advisor, a mortgage broker, and make sure that you can afford the repayments on this mortgage. And if you can't, then you will have to wait. There's no point going ahead with something if you can't manage it. So the question was raised by a commenter by the name of Thomas Owen, and he raised some excellent points, and I responded to it, and I thought it'd be nice to just do a follow-up video just explaining my point of view and why I still think it's a good idea for you to buy a property. A property can still be a fantastic investment, but of course I'm not trying to pressure anyone into doing so. You have to make sure that you do your own due diligence before going forward. So Thomas raised 5 important points, if you ask me, and I'm just going to be running through them quickly and giving my opinion and some of the research that is readily available out there. So if you see me looking away, I'm just checking the screen to make sure I've got all my notes. But like I said, this is my own personal opinion, as well as using information that is available to basically talk about these different points. So the first one that he actually mentioned is that furlough is about, at the moment, 11.4 million people that are on furlough. And if around 10% of those people actually lose their jobs, and that's an if. Now this will take unemployment to its highest level since around 2009, where it was at around 20%. Now of course he's absolutely right. These are ifs, and this is what you have to do when you're doing your research and your due diligence, is that you need to make sure that something like this, there's a very small possibility that it will affect you. Now there are many jobs out there that haven't been impacted by the furlough scheme. I myself, I work within the educational sector, and I was not furloughed. There was a period of time when I wasn't working, but then the schools reopened, and then I went back into schools, and during this time my job was secure. So the furlough scheme, as you can see, didn't impact me as such. So like I said, there are many people out there with great job security and very low risk of losing their job despite what's going on at the moment. So you have to do your own research, speak to a mortgage advisor, and see whether or not getting a mortgage at this current time with the job that you have, if it's something that's actually sensible or not. Now the next point that he made was that 100,000 people are still on mortgage holidays. Now I myself was one of those persons. Now I did this for different reasons, where my wife and we took a mortgage holiday for around 3 months. And this was for different reasons. Like I said, we could have still paid the mortgage. We just chose to take this opportunity to just balance some of our finances, and this is something that many people have done. They've taken mortgage holidays in order to save up, so that when hopefully this doesn't happen, but if leaner months may come down the line, they might have some cash to spare. While I do know that others have had to take this mortgage holiday because their jobs might be on the line. Now there are a few things after doing some research that you can actually do to help you if you're finding it difficult, if you are in this situation. One of those things is to extend the length of your mortgage if it's possible. This might help to give you some breathing space if you're furloughed and you're finding it difficult. But one of the first things you should do is always speak to your bank or your lender to see how they can help you, because they want you to carry on paying. Despite what people think, banks want you to continue paying your mortgage. So speak with somebody at the bank to see what's the best option for you. Now there are a couple other things, such as deferring your monthly payments, which you can do, as well as changing the type of mortgage that you have. Perhaps you've got a repayment mortgage for your property, for your house. Now, another thing that you can actually do is change your mortgage from a repayment to an interest-only mortgage, with the hope of reducing the amount that you pay, at least until you get back on your feet. Then you can speak to your lender about changing that back. Now, there are processes involved in that, but again, the best person for you to speak to would be your lender. Now, the third point which he mentioned, and this is one that I've been concerned about, being somebody that's interested in investing in properties for the future, to make sure I've got a decent retirement. I've been looking to buy a second property, and since the introduction of the stamp duty holiday, while it's boosted the economy in terms of properties being sold, it's actually had a side effect where house prices have gone up. Because the supply and demand chain is so much greater now, so many people are looking to buy a house to escape that second home stamp duty tax that they normally pay. So many people are buying properties that a side effect has caused the house prices to shoot up. Now, this basically means that a house that was valued, say, for 100,000 before the stamp duty holiday came in, that same property could potentially sell for 110, 115 or more, depending on the area and the condition. So that basically has inflated the prices of property. Now, this basically means that the value of your property that you bought for 110 could go lower to, say, 105 or 100,000, and this will put you in negative equity, which nobody wants to be in. Now, one of the best ways to try and minimize the risk of negative equity is to buy below market value. You might have heard this term on YouTube or on various articles, BMV, and I always stress to buy below market value. This property that I currently live in, we bought it below market value. So many folks believe that when the stamp duty holiday ends, that there's going to be a huge crash. Now, I'm not sure whether that is the case. I do suspect that there will be a slowdown in the market. However, I do also believe that the government are trying their utmost to prevent, a huge calamitous event from happening. I know that things looks rocky at the moment, but they're doing a lot in order to try and stimulate the market and keep everything going. Now, of course, with the stamp duty ending, property sales will slow down, and there might be a dip in how much properties are actually worth. Now, this goes back to what I was saying about buying below market value to try and reduce the impact if this should happen to you. Now, of course, you have to do as much stress testing as possible that, in the likely event that your house will lose some value after purchasing it, that you'll be able to keep up with those repayments. Now, I also believe that this is partly political because, there's going to be an election coming up soon. So no party wants to be the one to head up another recession. So they will be trying their utmost to make sure that they keep things afloat. Now, point number 4 that he mentioned was actually getting stuck in a housing market crash with debts higher than the value of the property. Now, again, this is something that could definitely happen. Now, if this should happen to you because of reasons that we've mentioned, with what's currently going on with furlough and job losses and the coronavirus. Now, if you're one of the unlucky persons that haven't been able to keep your job, and perhaps your property then loses value because you didn't buy it below market value, there are some things that you can do. And the first thing I would suggest is to speak to your lender, because like I said, your lender will be the best persons to basically try and work with you to make sure that you keep up with those repayments. But something else I also found out online, which I think is really, really clever, and you've got to think outside the box, guys. Now, something to mention, and this is what I found online, and it's quite a clever thing, is that if you cannot keep up with the repayment, what do you then do? Now, there are other ways for you to use that same property to actually make the property earn you some extra cash. And you can do stuff such as, Airbnb, serviced accommodations, where you can actually rent rooms out so that you can generate some income to actually help you, to weather the storm. You can rent the property out, or a portion of the property, to somebody who might be looking for a spare room, to either a lodger or, whatever the situation is. You can actually earn extra cash by renting that property. So it's important to know that, there are ways in which you can earn extra cash, so that you can try and reduce the risk of losing that property and keeping up with the repayment. If I was in this situation, this honestly is something that I would consider doing, because you've invested a lot of time, money and effort into buying your property. So you have to also try your hardest to minimize the risk of actually losing it. Now, the fifth and final thing that Thomas actually mentioned was that there could be potentially further increase the interest rates through the Bank of England. Now, the Bank of England are determined to keep these interest rates low in order to help the economy to grow. So I don't believe they're actually going to be raising it anytime soon. However, nobody knows for sure. The last time interest rates were to rise was back in 2016, I do believe. And since then, and this pandemic, the economy has taken a tumble. So they've actually reduced the rates, to make sure that things, continues to move forward. So I don't believe that they will actually increase in the next 1 to 2 years by much if they do. But of course, I haven't got a crystal ball. I'm just going based on previous experiences. Now, there is something that I always recommend that you do when you go into, take out a mortgage. Now, I've learned all of this after getting our mortgage for this property 2 years ago. But now that I know, it's something that you should always consider, and is to use an interest rate calculator. Now, I'll provide a link in the description below for an interest rate calculator. And it basically shows you, what you would potentially pay if the interest rates were to go up to say 5%. So it's worthwhile checking out. So guys, you'd then be able to stress test to see whether or not you'll be able to afford these repayments. I want to thank you once again for your comment, Thomas. And like I said, if anyone has any comments, anything to add, please put it in the comments below. Like, share and subscribe to this channel, guys. I really, really do appreciate it. As always, this is Ken Roy saying, I'll see you when you see me. Take care.